Hello, everybody. Welcome to Super Deluxe Gamescast episode 190?
190, yeah.
190, wow. Off the dome. So it has been a week. It's been a week. And we want to do our regular show for you guys and keep it on games and try to have some fun at the end of the week here. But I don't think we would feel super good about doing our goofy video game podcast without first addressing what's going on in America at the hands of police. So we have a little statement that we prepared in solidarity from the team here at SDGC.
Yeah.
So Derek,
Yeah, let me pull it up here. I've got it down. So, yeah, like Zach said, before we begin our show today, we wanted to take a moment to acknowledge some traumatic recent events. This discussion's going to be a little upsetting to some, but there's really no gentle way to discuss it. Earlier this week, on Monday, May 25th, a black man by the name of George Floyd was murdered by Minneapolis police. We use the word murder very specifically. Despite being unarmed, and despite being under arrest for a nonviolent offense, despite surveillance footage showing him not resisting arrest prior to this point, two police officers pinned the restrained Floyd to the ground, while a third pressed his knee into Floyd's neck, slowly suffocating him to death. This sequence was caught on camera by bystanders in a more than 10-minute video, culminating in emergency responders taking Floyd's lifeless corpse away. The pain and rage at Floyd's unjust and unnecessary death at the hands of police are only compounded by events that happened in New York Central Park just hours earlier that same day. A black parkgoer, Christian Cooper, requested that another white parkgoer leash her dog as is required in that part of the park. The exchange, captured on video, shows the woman telling him that she would call police and lie to them that he was threatening her, purely out of spite. We watched her immediately switch into fake hysterics as she pretended over the phone to police that she was being threatened and stalked by an African-American man, with the intention of falsely levying police aggression against him. Mr. Cooper, thankfully, was not killed by police that day, potentially only because he left the scene before they arrived and the video of the exchange quickly went viral. This all comes in as we're still grieving the death of Breonna Taylor in my own hometown of Louisville, a woman who was killed in her own home by police who broke into her house unannounced on a no-knock warrant. That warrant was for a house miles away, for two men already in police custody. It also comes in the wake of the murder of Ahmaud Arbery, an innocent jogger killed by two racist white men who felt empowered to act as law enforcement themselves because they assumed he was responsible for recent break-ins in their neighborhood. If you aren't awake to the realities of police violence against people of color and how that violence is often weaponized and co-opted by white people like ourselves for the most trivial reasons, you need to wake the fuck up. We've been through this cycle of death, grieving, and rage too many times. None of us on this show have the knowledge or the right to tell you how to be loud. But make no mistake, we need to be loud. Black Lives Matter.
thanks, Derek.
I need to go black for just a second. Give us a moment. All right, we're back. We're good. We're good.
I'm going to put a link here in the Twitch chat. It is a link to a GoFundMe for the George Floyd Memorial Fund. It's organized by his family. There are lots of different organizations that you can donate to support defunding police and taking care of Black families and Black people who are affected by these kinds of things. But that's a good place to start if you're looking for something to do.
Yeah. Thank you both. So I think that we're gonna try to move forward and go on with the rest of the show. So this week, like all weeks, we're probably still playing games and trying to find distraction and entertainment. John, have you been playing anything particularly interesting this week?
I've been playing a lot of things this week. So for my GameCube, and this will actually be of particular interest. So this will be of interest.
You have my attention, John.
Yeah.
So Reb, so check
Tell
this
me about
out.
the GameCube.
So I decided I grabbed a GameCube because it's one of the few systems I don't have. It was one of my favorite systems of all time. Went out
Wait,
and
you don't
grabbed
have a GameCube?
What I do now. I didn't have one before. I didn't have one. I haven't had one since like 2004.
I'm gonna annoy the shit out of you over the next few weeks recommending
So-
games. Continue.
Right. So one of my favorite games on
John, have you
GameCube
heard of a game called Mario Sunshine?
I have actually, yes. It's Mario Sunshine is a beloved Mario game.
It's a great game.
But Paper Mario Thousand Year Door is one of my
Oh, come
favorite
on.
Got it.
one of my favorite GameCube games.
I'm on it.
And wait, what's going on?
Nothing.
Oh.
Just someone in chat.
Oh,
I
of
got
course.
I got it.
Of
I don't
course.
actually know where the ban button is. I should probably
course.
figure
I
that
got
out.
it.
Derek,
But-
you beat me
so-
to it.
So I grabbed Paper Mario Thousand Year Door because it's one of my favorite GameCube games, and I hooked it up to my HD TV with just a basic AV to HDMI composite cable. It's a converter, and it looked like butt. I was like, oh, this looks like shit. So what I did was I spent a little money and got a Hyperkin, a Hyperkin HDMI cable made specifically for the GameCube that will output it in 720p at the proper aspect ratio on my HD TV. Now I tweeted out comparison pictures. I did this, and it looks fucking great. It looks fucking awesome. And so I've been playing Paper Mario Thousand Year Door for the past few days. I'm gonna pop in Metroid Prime after the podcast here and see how that looks on there. I just picked up Star Fox Adventures, which is a really good fucking game. I don't care what anybody says. Star
Are you
Fox
just
Adventures.
replaying games you've already played?
Yes.
All right, John. Just hold still for a minute.
Okay.
Have you heard the good word of Batten Kaitos?
I have heard of Batten Kaitos, but I've never played it.
You, as an RPG person, should play Batten Kaitos. I am very curious as to what you would think of it. Now, caveat on this, Batten Kaitos has the worst voice acting of any video game you've ever seen. It's really bad. But the game itself is quite good. And the sequel actually, well, it's just technically a prequel, but Batten Kaitos Origins is even better, but it's really good if you've played the first one and have the context for it. So, if you're looking for something to play, Batten Kaitos, if you can't find a copy, I will mail you mine to borrow if you have to give it back.
Reb, you're wonderful. Look at you, you wonderful.
No, Batten Kaitos is wonderful.
I like that Brad
Also, a
singled out.
soundtrack composed by the wonderful Motoi Sakuraba, who also did Dark Souls and Golden Sun and a lot of other games we really like.
Really?
Honestly, one of his best soundtracks.
Who's the
truly.
developer of Batten Kaitos? I know the game. I've
It's
never
like
played it.
Monolith Soft?
I think it's
Oh,
Monolith
then
Soft.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
fucking love it because I like Monolith Soft. So, yeah.
That's why I always lose my shit whenever there's one of those rumors that goes out that's like Monolith Soft's working on a secret project. It's never fucking Batten Kaitos. I think it's because they don't actually own that right anymore. But
I don't.
It never is. But I
think it was owned. I think the IP was owned by the publisher of that game, which
it's
was
Bandai,
not,
isn't it? It's Bandai Namco.
I think it was Bandai Namco, and now they're owned by Nintendo now, right?
Correct me
Monolith.
if I'm.
It is
Monolith is partnered with Nintendo. It's a second
They're
party. I
partnered
think
I think they're
Yeah.
owned by
Okay.
them.
Nintendo
Got it,
holds
got
the
it.
largest shares or something like that, but it's not a
So-
full ownership.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Skies of Arcadia was ported to GameCube, wasn't it?
Oh
Yes,
no, I guess Nintendo
that's how I
bought
played
it
it.
from Band.
Yeah,
Bandai.
I need to grab.
Bando-
That's.
Namco Banda.
I'm gonna play Batten
Nintendo
Kaitos.
bought it from Bandai Namco in 2007. Okay.
I'm gonna play Batten Kaitos, and I'm gonna play Skies of Arcadia again because that is a game that has a GameCube port, and I can't wait to see how that looks with this new HDMI cable I have for the GameCube. Reb, you've got I'll send you pictures. You've got to see what this shit does for older systems. It's incredible. And the other thing I've been playing is Minecraft Dungeons, which is great.
Yay.
And of course, I've been playing Final Fantasy VI also.
I have also been playing a little bit of Minecraft Dungeons, and it's pretty good. It's weird. I think other people have already said this, so I'll be brief about it. But it's a very good one of these. But it's very strange that it's basically a Minecraft skin, right? It doesn't have a lot of the DNA in terms of there's no building, there's no destruction. It's basically
Right.
go through these pre-made levels and search around. It's a really fun game to do that, but it seems weird that they're not leveraging the IP in a greater way. But I am actually looking forward to dipping further into it and playing it with my wife this weekend. It looks like it'll be a good co-op game. I've only played
It's
the
very
first couple
simple.
levels.
It's
I
very
need to give
simple.
it a shot. I need to give it a shot.
Reb, I think you would like it. It's are you a fan of Diablo, Reb, or like top-down loot loot RPGs or?
Indifferent.
Okay, so this kind of cuts away all like you don't have to worry about character build. You don't have to worry
I don't
about
dislike them. It's not my normal go-to.
Sure, but like what I like about like people kind of dump on Minecraft Dungeons because it's simple, but I think there's like I think there's kind of a beauty in its simplicity in that I don't feel stressed out about worrying about what kind of build I'm gonna have. Whatever abilities you have, you just equip your fucking weapon and you go. There's no classes. You don't have to worry about micromanaging stuff, and I think it's great.
I love to equip my fucking weapon and go.
Fuck yeah, equip your weapon and go. I love the fact that is that Robo that the tail just came into view.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I got, other than Final Fantasy VI, which I know you guys don't want to hear me talk about.
Are you playing that again? Are you really playing that again?
Yes, I am.
Well,
He sure is.
I don't want it. Never mind. I don't want it. What time is this for you, John?
Don't get him started.
I played it annually
God
since
damn it.
1995. So
Oh, this is the annual playthrough.
yes.
John,
John,
I
how many
literally
times
just
have you
feel like
played
you
it
are...
this year? Like, this is at least the third time this year you've played it.
Yeah,
No,
I literally
no,
feel that you were
no.
just perpetually
I begged you
playing
all
Final
not to get
Fantasy
into
VI.
this.
No. So this year. So what I did this year was I played the Final Fantasy VI Advance.
got 'em going.
The modded one on Game Boy Advance with the restored sound and colors, just to
That
see what it
didn't
was
count
like.
for you? That wasn't...
No, it doesn't count because it's an experiment rep. Yes, I played the game to
It's
completion.
several hours long. It's like several hours long.
John,
Like
I'm gonna
25, 30 hours long. Yeah.
John, I'm
Yeah.
gonna do something I don't do very often. I'm gonna take your side here, and I'm gonna say, you clearly have a game that's very special to you that brings you a lot of enjoyment.
Okay.
And
okay.
I think you should play this game as many times as you want, as often
Thank
as
you,
you
Jeff.
want.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
Okay.
I could have gone without the. I'm
I'm
gonna
not
take
saying
your
he
side for
should.
once, but thanks, buddy.
Just
I'm
please
not
don't
saying
talk
he
about it on
shouldn't
the
play it.
podcast.
No.
I just want an accurate count. That's all.
At least
I just wanna
27 or
keep-
28
This
times.
is like when I was in high school though and read the Harry Potter books start to finish over and over at the kitchen breakfast table just every single morning before I went to school, before I knew that J.K. Rowling was the giant transphobe.
Hey John, I just want to wind it back really quick.
Yes, sir.
To
Sorry.
prolong the time we're spending talking about Final Fantasy.
Final
You said
Fantasy
you,
VI,
you said,
yeah.
You said you've been playing it every year since 1995
Yes.
annually.
Yes.
That is the year I was born. Does that feel good for you? Does that feel right?
Why would you do
Sign,
that?
Derek. What
Why
was
would
the
you do
sign?
that, Zach? Why would you say that? Why would you even make that a point that had to be made?
Put the
Like,
sign
I'm turning-
back. What did that say?
Zach,
said
I'm turning.
help.
Zach, I'm
said
turning
help.
fucking 40 this year, Zach. I'm turning 40
No.
this year. That's traumatic enough. Like,
Okay.
why would you? Why, like, oh God, yes, Zach, it's terrible. I don't like hearing it.
Okay.
It's awful.
Cool.
It's
All right.
awful.
No, I just want to throw that out there. Jeff, have you been playing any games?
Fuck.
I'm actually glad I got to go now. I was feeling so bad about what I've been playing until John went, but also just because it's also super old and I've played it before. Yeah, I'm just like, I don't know, I'm not really playing anything right now, so I figured I'd boot up Morrowind. I think I talked about it on the last show. Derek is nice. Derek's very nice. We all love Derek. Sorry. So I had to pay $15 to get like a keyboard remapping program to play with a controller, but the thing I love about Morrowind, which I don't know if this is good or bad, we all know how Bethesda games are, is that you could just break the game, and while the newer Elder Scrolls games can be broken too, and sometimes they just happen, this one is like levels way beyond that, because it's got that old school RPG, like there's very little direction and the game doesn't handhold you. So for example, a few hours into the game, you're basically given a quest where you have to go get like some notes from someone and deliver them to someone else. And I got the notes, but my inventory was full, so I just started dumping all my inventory in baskets in this random house. And then I went to the person I had to deliver it to, but I had just dumped the note in one of those baskets across the map. And like I had no idea where I left it or how to go back and get it. So I spent 2 hours trying to remember which town I went to and which house I was in, and going through every single basket, trying to find those notes to bring it back to that person. So, but no, I don't have anything insightful to say. I love Morrowind. It's probably my favorite environment in the Elder Scrolls series.
It's pretty hard to hold. Does it hold up well? I had heard that
No.
it's actually really hard to get it. Yeah, I was gonna say.
No.
I heard
Yeah,
it's
it
really
doesn't
hard
hold up well
to
at
actually
all.
get it.
No.
The honesty.
There's a few things that I think do hold up. The world and the music. I mean, the music, it doesn't seem to have a wide range of tracks, but the music is phenomenal. It's as good as ever. It's my favorite world and environment and setting. I like the biomes and the general landscape. And like the graphics are dated, but whatever, that's not that bad. The thing that doesn't hold up is the combat, because the way Morrowind works, which they changed in later games, is like, I think it's still the same in newer Elder Scrolls games. Like, when you're early in the game and your stats are low, every swing of your sword is a roll. And if you do not roll enough to successfully damage the enemy, nothing happens. So you just hit your sword and there's no collision.
That's
So
terrible.
you're just doing this and nothing's happening, and every fifth or sixth swing you'll connect with them. Which it doesn't feel good to play. And I think what they did in Oblivion and Skyrim is there's still an element to the roll, but even if you do no damage, it still looks like you connected with them.
Sure.
So like it gives you that, at least you feel like you're hitting them and fighting, even if your fight's going to take longer, you're going to do less damage. But yeah, the combat was not good 20 years ago. It's really not good now. And the game is like super text heavy, right? Just compared to what you're used to in a modern RPG. You just got walls of text. Every NPC has 20 topics, and each topic you click on has another wall of text associated with it. You could spend, easily 50% of the game time just reading stuff and like all the books and stuff in it. But I don't know. I'm able to just kind of like, I read the stuff that interests me and parse out the rest, and the combat is what it is. But I've got enough old games that I enjoy that have awful combat. It's not really a game breaker for me.
There's no shortage of old games with awful combat.
Yeah, so I just like walking around the world and just taking everything in, and I do like a lot of the I think Bethesda's writing is not as strong as it used to be in the past. I think they've always had kind of a mix of really interesting dialogue and really funny dialogue. I think some of their games more so than others. They've just got a really distinct sense of humor in the way that they write stuff. And like my favorite thing is like almost every playthrough everyone does in Morrowind, 5 minutes into the game, you walk down this path and a guy just falls out of the sky and lands on the ground, and he's got a book there. And the book is all about how he's finally discovered the key to flying in this potion, and he's going to do all these great things. But you literally just saw him fall to the ground and die right in front of you. So what's up, John?
I just wanted to say, Jeff, talking about the combat in Morrowind, Derek, it sounds like the developers of Crypt of the Serpent King took Morrowind's combat and cut everything else out and just made that a game.
You act like the developers of Crypt of the Serpent King had any plan, intention, or succeeded in creating anything, even anything terrible.
That was so
Crypt of the Serpent
painful.
King was willed into existence by demons, and we do not speak of it anymore.
We played through the whole game. Go ahead, Reb. Sorry.
This is a very stupid take. So I played like, I don't know, I think I played like an hour of Morrowind one day on a whim, but it was like very recently, like this was last year. And having never played it before, there was no way I was gonna fucking keep playing it. Just because you have to like already know how it works now in order to play it, I think.
It's very obtuse.
It's very obtuse. But I really, it's one of the games that I really, really wish I had played when it first came out. For the sole reason that I very specifically remember being introduced to that game through the segments with Tom on Toonami, where he reviewed Morrowind. I don't know if any of you all watched Toonami back in the day.
Yeah.
Remember those?
Oh, yeah.
But he talked about Morrowind, and that thing aired, like, I don't remember what block of TV that was. I don't remember if it was, like, during Dragon Ball Z or whatever the hell that was. But whatever block it was, that review aired over and over again, and I was like, wow, Morrowind, that looks incredible. But I didn't have a video gaming machine.
You weren't cool yet, Reb.
I think, like, I don't even know what year that would have been, but like whatever year that was, I think I was probably playing on my fucking Game Boy Advance or something.
I think it was 2002. When
What
I
was
played
that?
through it, when I played through it at launch, I played it on the original Xbox because they had a port there, and it ran at 20 frames a second, and it crashed every 30 minutes. So
Let's see, 2002 in video games, PS2, Xbox, GameCube. So I had a GameCube back then. Morrowind was never released for the GameCube. It may have been Yu Yu Hakusho, Blaine. You're right. I watched lots of Yu Yu Hakusho. Was that on Toonami? I don't know. Oh, I guess when Toonami was like still a late night thing for adults, and they had Yu Yu Hakusho and Inuyasha. Yeah, Yu Yu Hakusho, Inuyasha, and Morrowind. Adult things.
Justin, what have you been dipping your toes into anything? I know the Modern Warfare season is wrapping up. Is that where you're spending a lot of time right now?
Not really. I actually just hit 85 today, which was the last thing in the battle pass I actually wanted. So, if they do a double progress thing this weekend, I might just grind out the rest of it to say I did. But I'm happy with my progress this season. I did download Call of Duty World War II because it's one of the only campaigns I hadn't played. There's only 3 Call of Duty games that I have not played. From the very first one, and so this is one of the ones I hadn't played, because it's free on PlayStation Plus right now. So I downloaded it, and it was fine. Like, I don't really have strong feelings on most of it, except there was one mission I really loved, and it was one of the only missions where you're not playing as the Americans. You were playing as a French revolutionary, and she is undercover at a Nazi garrison in Paris, and you have to basically, it's not a big shooter mission. You have to walk around and you have to locate your contact within this this garrison, and people stop and ask for your papers and ask you questions about them. So you have to memorize what the information on your papers for your cover story is, so that when they ask you who's your commanding officer, who are you there to see, where are you from, and stuff like that, you have to be able to answer quickly. As well as you have sneaking around and you can let out some prisoners and stuff. It's really, really cool. And it was something I was not expecting out of a Call of Duty game. And it was really, really neat, and I really enjoyed it. And it kind of brings me back to my soapbox. This is kind of a thing I've said for several years now, where I want more spy-themed first-person shooters, because I think there was a period in the 90s, with GoldenEye and Perfect Dark and stuff, where you had really cool varieties of gadgets and weapons, and then but also you could do stuff with conversation and stealth and stuff instead of just crazy action and stuff. And I thought it was really, really cool and unique for the series, and it really stood out, and I had a blast playing that one mission. I also have been revisiting Days Gone.
Go on. I want to stop you. I have literally never in my entire life cared about Call of Duty, not even for 5 seconds. But the idea of some kind of mission of sorts where you have a set of information that you have to memorize and then be able to accurately answer questions about it. That's interesting. I would play a game that was
super
just that.
cool.
You're also playing a cool French lady spy.
Yeah,
that could be.
She's
that could
awesome.
Be so interesting. I could see that getting.
And she has a pen knife.
In so many interesting ways in a game. If you have disguises and you have to pick the right stuff. I don't know. That's so interesting.
You can stumble upon an attempted rape in the basement and stop it and kill the dude, kill the Nazi. Yeah, it's great.
It's also just buried in the middle of
just
an
murder
8-hour campaign. They're just it's been just run of the mill World War II shit that's prettier, and they're here's an innovative mission. You're only getting one of these this year, and here it's
I just want a game that's that.
A whole campaign of that, yeah.
I did too. It was also funny because it was after one of the most ridiculous train crashes in video game history.
Yeah.
Once this train starts crashing, it's
a 30-minute long train crash.
Long sequence of just stuff flying around you, and then all of a sudden you immediately go into this really cool quiet stealth mission.
What's the name of this mission? Does it have a name?
Oh, I'm sure.
I don't remember.
I'm blanking on it. It's basically the Paris mission in Call of Duty World War II.
Video game developers, turn the Paris mission into a standalone video game. I will give you money. Thank you.
Just make it an immersive sim. Just let Arcane just make it.
And I will too. Yeah, let
Arcane's
Arcane.
a good choice.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was gonna. Yeah, Arcane's an excellent choice.
It is their 20th anniversary today. It is Arcane's 20th anniversary. Happy 20th to Arcane.
Arcane, make the Paris mission into a video game. I will give you money for it. Thank you.
If you want to bring back a real spy game, what was the game
one lives forever.
What was the game with the gecko in a tux?
Nope.
Yes.
Nope. I'm muting John.
John, that was a TV parody game.
Justin, what were you going to say before I stopped you? Please continue. Get us out of this.
So I've also been playing, dabbling a little bit in Days Gone again. I played it last year when it came out, and it's a weird level of quality for me because I think the first like 10 or so hours of the game are straight up bad. And then you hit this point where you reach this third one of the camps that you visit.
Play through 10 hours of anything that's bad. That's very impressive to me.
Well, I mean, okay, it's more fine. Excuse me. It's like just fine up until that point. And then all of a sudden you get to this point where like all of a sudden some of the stuff that they were playing, you know, really straight with this character and, you know, everything just kind of all of a sudden, like, it starts with there's a mission where your friend is sick, you have to sneak into this camp and steal some antibiotics to help him, and at the end you get caught, and these two characters come up and they're like, why the fuck did you try to steal it from us? You could have just asked us for help, you dipshit. Like,
does the game give you a choice though?
No. So part of the reason is early on in the game, like, but like, characters at that point start to call Deacon on his shit and stuff, which was something I didn't really expect from that game. But like, it's not a great game, but it ends up being in a place that's a lot better than where it starts. So it's a game that I'm kind of more excited to see a sequel to than I am, you know, just like a straight ahead sequel. But the one thing that really gets me about that game, and it is basically why I wanted to revisit it and just kind of walk around in that world, is because you really get a sense of the developer's pride for Oregon and like the Pacific Northwest. Like, the studio is located in Bend, Oregon.
Okay.
And instead of taking, oh, like, this is, you know, going to be a really recognizable location and we're going to play around with it, or we're going to take this exotic location and let you explore it in an open world game, they're like, hey, let's take this area that we really love and accurately model it and let people check it out. Like, a lot of the collectibles are just historical markers from Oregon. There are missions where you're just walking around and this old guy's telling you Oregon facts, and it's
Oregon facts.
It's really cool, and I really like that element of it. I think the world is well designed and stuff. And I'm excited to see where they take it, because where they end up is much more exciting and much more interesting than where it started.
Jeff, did you have something you wanted to add to the Days Gone discourse?
Yeah, I didn't want to intrude on Justin's speech there, but I agree with a lot of what Justin said. I think like the first 10 hours, they're not bad. It's like bad. I hate when people call like mediocre games bad, because like I have a very specific image in my head of what a bad game is, and Days Gone I don't think is bad. It's a weird game. Like, it's a weird fucking game. It feels like a bunch of stuff, and this is good and this is bad, and like it's such a mixed bag.
It's
like
a fucking stew.
I think one of the weirdest things is, and I heard that the game either got certain things got chopped down, or it jumps, like, it's really weird. Like, cutscenes just start and stop, and characters, like, sometimes things don't flow and they don't make sense, and I heard it's because things got moved around or like changed, but you can really notice it. And then
so like, it originally was supposed to have like a morality system and let you do decisions and stuff, and it's really clear early on in the game that they had to cut that, and they just had to go with one of the choices.
1 minute Deacon's like, oh, thanks a lot for helping me, and then like literally it just like the camera cuts and he's yelling at someone. He's like, you fucking screw me for the last time.
Yeah.
I'm like, what just happened? So it's like you're getting good Deacon and evil Deacon. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just like they try, I don't know, like they did weird things with like the objectives. So like you kind of have all these ongoing huge objectives over time, and like every time I do something, it's like I got 5% more towards this really obscure goal that, and it's like I see what they were going for. It's cool how they kind of had some non-linear things like that you could progress over the course of the entire game, but just the way the menu system was laid out and everything, I just found it really really confusing. But like the core of the game is like pretty solid. Like I like the bike stuff. I like Justin said, the world's really immersive. But yeah, I felt like the start was just, it took a long time to get going, and then there was a little section where it was like pretty good, and then I felt like it overstayed its welcome, was a little bit long, which is why I didn't quite finish it. But
Yeah, but like I said, like all the characters end up in a much more likable place at the end of the game. It feels like the developers kind of found their footing as they went through and made the game. And then there's one post-credits tease that actually has some really cool implications for things they can do with the infected in the next game. So I'm very interested to see where that series goes, because I think the next one could end up being a very big improvement.
Sure. Yeah, and honestly, like Sony Bend, they took a long time to get this game out, but now that they have all the dev tools there, you know, theoretically they could probably turn around a sequel a little bit faster, which is cool. We might see something from them in the next 2 or 3 years. You might think. Derek, have you talked about what you've been playing lately?
Not yet. So I wasn't on the show last week, and I've had 2 very different gaming experiences these last 2 weeks, for obvious reasons. So last week I resumed my on hiatus Call of Duty series playthrough. For those of you who remember, I had not played a single Call of Duty game before last year, and I decided to start playing through them all, just the campaigns. The long story short is the only one up until last week that I actually unironically enjoyed was Advanced Warfare. None of them were really bad. They're just silly. No, I take it back. The Black Ops games, awful. Fucking terrible. Don't let Treyarch make video games anymore.
There you go.
Just don't. Make them
Are
a
they the
porting
ones who are
studio
making
game.
the next one?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're on tap for this year.
It's another Black
They're
Ops.
making the one that's like supposed, according to rumors,
The
no one really
edgiest,
knows,
grimmest.
the edgiest.
Yes.
They're the guys who thought,
grittiest Vietnam, or is it Vietnam War or Cold War?
It's both.
It's a
Sort of.
Frankenstein game that's
Yeah.
like mashed together at this point.
Look, here, I'm going to tell you about the original Black Ops, okay? You put glass in a man's mouth and then punch him in the face repeatedly to get information, and the game treats that not as like, wow, you're morally compromised doing extreme things. It's just like, fuck yeah, soldiers get it done. And then in the end, as you're coming up from the underwater base, you arrive in the middle of the entire U.S. Navy, it seems like, and then fighter jets fly overhead, and then an American eagle, a bald eagle carries an American flag across the sky, and then fireworks shoot off, and the credits start immediately.
Oh my god!
I only made up some of those details.
Oh my god!
but
And then
no.
it implies you shoot JFK.
Yeah,
that's the other thing that happens in the end.
Is this Metal Wolf Chaos we're talking
No,
about now?
unfortunately. So the Black Ops games are fucking awful. I liked Advanced Warfare. I stopped after Black Ops 3 because it broke me. It broke my will to continue the series. So I started back up. I played Infinite Warfare. Infinite Warfare's fucking great. Mostly because it avoids a lot of the jingoistic bullshit and way too like try hard oorah. It's just like a sci-fi
that
war story that
the
I can
space one.
Yeah, with
Yes.
Jon Snow as the villain. Like, and it's good. It's unironically pretty good. There's a robot partner named Ethan who's just lovely. He's delightful. He's very charming, and southern and very fun. And I liked that. And I've started World War II,
So like
which is
you.
yeah. Well, thank you.
Aw.
So I started
this is so
World War II, which I'm liking less, but it's still fun. It's doing things different from a lot of the stuff I don't like about the Call of Duty series. Like there's med kits, so that's a big change of pace. Most
Was
of
that what you were yelling about the other day?
yeah, the guns are mostly like old school like rifles, so it's a very punchy like single shot instead of just like spray in a direction and kill somebody.
Boots on the ground. That's the one.
Yeah,
that's the term
yeah.
you're looking for.
So
I love that word.
Boots on the ground.
it's nicer than most, but like it's fine. But then of course the last few days have been incredibly stressful, and I've had a hard time kind of getting myself out of being wrapped around what's going on in Minneapolis right now. So I've sought out more comfort food types of games, things that I just know that I love, that I can play mindlessly, that will help pull me out of that. So I've played a lot of Slay the Spire, which is just a very fun, rogue. I can play that on one monitor and watch Avatar: The Last Airbender on another monitor, and my ADHD brain is satisfied, and I can think 0% about the badness in the world right now. I also shout out to Imran bringing up Dolphin earlier. I pulled up Dolphin, and I pulled up one of my favorite Wii games, which is Sengoku Basara. It is Capcom making their version of Samurai Warriors, basically. It's even like same time frame, Japan, same historical figures. It's just silly. Like, this character will be a giant robot with a drill spear for some reason. Masamune Date uses 6 katanas and he holds them between his fingers like Wolverine claws. It's
That's
very
fucking
dumb.
awesome.
It's very dumb, but it's very fun.
That is the best thing I have ever heard.
Yeah,
And
no,
the-
like that's the coolest description of anything I've ever heard.
And like, unlike a lot of the Dynasty Warriors games, which look, I'm a sucker for Muso titles, but unlike a lot of the like Dynasty Warriors, Samurai Warriors type games, there's only like a much smaller number of characters in Sengoku Basara, but they're all very, very different. They have like unique mechanics and resources and meters and things like that. So it was it's very good. It's very fun. And it's very fun to realize years and years later, after I 100% of the game years ago, to come back to it and recognize like, oh, that's so-and-so from Critical Role, before they got huge. Oh, that's, so-and-so, and that's this. And, oh, yeah, by the way, I can beat up 100 samurais with my ninja. Like, it's just a good time. And I've needed that. So, like I said, 2 very different experiences the past 2 weeks. But
Derek, from the chat, is this accurate? It's Samurai Warriors with an explicit message of "What if hot guys?"
Yes, but with an explicit amount of stupid weeaboo shit on top of that, right? Like, there's no getting around. This is not like, my mom is not going to sit down and look at this and be like, "Oh, this is very interesting." Like, this is I don't know. This is going to cater a lot to anime nerds who don't realize that the shit they're into is incredibly homoerotic, right? Like, dudes who watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and don't realize how intentionally gay it is, like, they'd love Sengoku Basara, and so do I. Anyway, that's the stuff I've been playing.
I'm just happy
Sounds
you're
great.
happy.
Who
Reb,
next?
have you been jumping into anything else lately?
Yes, don't say that so resignedly because I said Animal Crossing every single week for the last.
That's not what I
months.
meant. That's not what
I
I meant.
know it is. It's okay. No, I've actually been playing. Well, I've been playing a game ongoing that I've avoided talking about every single week because I don't want to just like drag it on. But my boyfriend and I are playing Divinity: Original Sin 2, which I mentioned on the podcast before. We are actually, I believe, we're nearing the end. We made it to arcs. So my opinions about Divinity have sort of like changed over time. I really like it. I think it's a lot like Dungeons and Dragons. I think it's an incredible game with an incredible score, a lot of really incredible writing. I am having kind of a growing dislike for just how I simultaneously love that it allows you to do co-op with up to 4 people online, cross-platform. Like, that is absolutely fantastic and really, really good and really, really helpful in just like so many ways. But it doesn't, the writing and the quest system, for some reason, I don't know what it needs to make it better tailored toward people doing that kind of thing, but it needs something, because the kind of result of him and I playing this much Divinity, because we're up to, I think he said like 50 hours of game at this point. The end result of playing through 50 hours of game with someone where each of you only gets like half of the quest text at any given time is that you each only have like half the story, but also it's 50 hours of game. And so if you're not being consistently reminded, or like, if I'm the person who instigated a quest with one character and then he picks up a quest with another character that references that previous character, then suddenly we have to sit here and like compare notes and figure, okay, who was this? I don't remember. Why are they significant? Yes, Derek.
So
I just want to say that Martha and I definitely nearly broke up playing that game co-op.
But we're doing okay. Our teamwork is okay. It's just kind of like the constant like moment, because we're in arcs now, and now that we're in arcs, there's all these characters that are sort of reappearing, or all these storylines that are sort of making their way here, and we're looking at them and we're like, okay, fuck, we're supposed to know who they are. Who are they? Jeff, you were first.
yeah, no, I was just gonna ask. So like, that's kind of surprising to me because most games I played with co-op, I've been not the same game at all, but I'm playing Sea of Thieves with friends, and like when someone starts a quest, usually you get like text and voiceover, even if you're like, 100 yards away, like talking to someone else. Like usually that text and dialogue gets displayed for everyone. You're saying that's not the case? Like
you can if you see, so whenever whenever the person you're playing with is talking to somebody, there's like a little kind of like icon by their profile thing, and you can click on it, you can listen in. But it's not a super efficient way to go around a town. Like when we both walk into a town and it's huge and there's all these quests around, we split up inevitably and we go, okay, you're gonna go over here, I'm gonna go over here, we're gonna see what the issues are, and then we're gonna like tackle them. And so we just like inevitably miss stuff. And then also sometimes depending on the quest or who it's for or what character it's for, sometimes random characters will just get pulled into scenes without anybody knowing. And all of a sudden they'll be like, wait, where are you? And he's like, I don't know, this guy just started talking to me, and vice versa. And we're like, okay, wait, what does he want? Like, what's his problem? And so there's just a lot of information. There's just so much information coming at you at once. And the quest log, I feel, doesn't always sort it in a way that is useful to me. John.
So, Reb, so you said that you and Imran are 50 hours into this, right?
Yes.
About 50 hours. I feel like you guys have been playing this for a while, and I know that you can't play every night, but I was curious as to how long it's actually taken the both of you to get to this point. Like, when did you start playing this?
Oh, I don't remember when we started playing. We have been playing approximately once a week. There were a couple gaps where I know that this definitely hurt. There were a couple gaps where we didn't play for several weeks, and I think that hurt us remembering all the lore. But also the fact that the quest log is not always a super helpful indicator of what has happened in the past didn't really help us in catching up. So yeah, we're like 50 hours in. We're in Arcs, which is sort of the final big area before the big confrontation at the end. The other thing about Arcs that's interesting is the difficulty ramps up significantly when you get there. Like up to this point, we had just been, and we're playing on like the easy baby story mode, which is fine. Up to this point, there had been one battle that we had struggled with because it was designed in a very particular way. If you know the game, there's like a fight on kind of basically this oil rig sort of thing with all these like slimes that pop up and set things on fire. It's a very cool battle. Like it's designed, it's difficult, but in an interesting way. I really liked that fight. And every other fight has been very vanilla up to this point, playing on story mode, which was fine. Like I didn't want anything complicated. I just wanted to burst through it. But we got to Arcs, all of a sudden everything's really hard. Like we were joking when we walked into Arcs, we're like, oh, we just like destroyed everybody really quickly. Why do we need to become divine? We don't need to become divine. Our powers are fuck. We don't need anything. And then like immediately walked into a fight where we just got our heads handed to us. There's like this fight in a cathedral or a church or a ruin or I don't know what the fuck. I think it's a consulate in Arcs where you walk in and there's these fire guys and they're really easy to kill in like one shot, but they're made of fire. And you can't kill them because when you kill them, they turn into like this glowing patch on the ground, and then on their next turn, they go, if there's cursed fire anywhere in the area, they will go absorb the cursed fire and immediately respawn. And there's two of them. And in order to finish the encounter, you have to make sure that there is no cursed fire anywhere near enough for them to reach in a single turn, or they'll just keep respawning over and over. The problem is they will immediately respawn and then they'll have like 2 turns right after that where they can just do whatever the fuck they want before you can do anything, where they shoot more cursed fire onto the ground. And so there's a few ways to do it. Like there's different ways to cheese it, but you do that and then there's a fight immediately after that where there's 3 of them and there's even more cursed fire to start with. And it's just like a fight that the idea and concept is really cool, but in execution, it is just maddening in the extreme. It just feels deeply unfair at like every possible second. And we were like looking up like, how do we beat these guys? And you basically have to either have more stamina than them and effectively like tire them out to the point where you just get lucky at one point and there's no cursed fire around and they just die, or you have to like cheese it somehow where you either like lure them outside or glitch them on a staircase or some other bullshit that makes them die. And I think Imran says we cheesed one of them. If I remember right, we cheesed both of them. I have no idea how they died the second time. I do not have the faintest clue how we beat them, but we did. So that's Divinity Original Sin 2. I really like it. It's got some interesting things.
So is Baldur's Gate 3, I think, is still tentatively scheduled for this year. Is it going to be structured the same way where you guys could potentially play it the same way in co-op?
That's a question for somebody else who knows about Baldur's
I think it is. I think it is. I think it is.
I couldn't remember if it had co-op the same way.
I mean, there's gonna be a new trailer for it tomorrow, apparently from Larian. So maybe we'll find out more information then. But what I took away from that is that there's way too much fucking cursed fire in art.
There's
like,
too much. Cursed fire is my least favorite
like,
effect. Honestly, I feel like every single fight has fucking cursed fire. Every fight ends up just like, I don't know. I saw someone sharing a tweet around where it's like, this is me playing Divinity Original Sin 2, and it's just the guy with the pizza walking into the room and everything's on fire. That's like how every fight is.
Yeah, but the fire is cursed.
Yeah.
But the fire is.
The other game I've been playing is Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which I'm now I think 11 or 12 hours. Like Assassin's Creed Odyssey mostly. I love all the parts.
Mostly.
I love all the parts where I'm Cassandra and I'm running around exploring. I love all the historical stuff. It's really good. I love the music. It's great. I love talking to people. I love being Cassandra. I love being a fucking assassin. I love like just dumping points into my assassin tree and just going up to people and yeah, it's really good. I got to the part, so I'd been playing like for about 8-9 hours and it was really good. And then I suddenly got to the part where they're like, here's a boat. And I'm like, great, I have a boat. I remember liking that in Black Flag. Do I like it now? No, I don't like it now. And I can't really put my finger on what I don't like about having the boat. I think like in Black Flag, I was a pirate, and so it sort of made sense that I have a boat. And there was a lot of gameplay around the boat, right? Like it's, oh, you're a pirate, you can do X, Y, and Z because you're a pirate, you're building up a crew, like it's all this important stuff. But now I'm like, Cassandra, I'm a mercenary. Why do I have a boat? Do I need a boat? Like, can you just take me to the next place? Like, what is the point of me having a boat? It feels like they just had this system that they wanted to, like, glue onto it, and they're like, here, she has a boat now. And there's, like, all these things that I know how to do because I played Black Flag, but the game doesn't ever really explain to you. Like, I can dive into shipwrecks and, like, get treasure out of them, but there's fucking sharks. Why would I ever want to do that? I have no reason to be doing that as Cassandra. I've got more important things to be doing. So I don't like the boat parts. The boat parts are a necessary evil to get me from place to place. And then the other part that I don't like is there's war sometimes and you have to go to war. And I'm an assassin. I do not go to war. Assassins do not go to war. Assassins go sneak up on people and go with the blades. They do not go to war. So I get thrown into war. I have, gear that makes me sneaky and abilities that make me sneaky and poisony. And everybody's like, ah! And I'm like, ah! And I'm not very good at war. So it took me a lot of tries to beat the war. And now the result is like Sparta's in control, but basically now I can't do any of the objectives in the area without kicking Sparta out of control, which I feel like I just did a lot of work to put Sparta in power. Why would I want to fucking take them out and put Athens back in power? Like, what do I gain from that except some achievements checked off a list? So, like, I love a lot of the ideas of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I think it is a great game. I'm going to keep playing it. That said, there are just a lot of systems. There are just systems just bleeding out of Assassin's Creed
Creed games.
Odyssey. I just want to take like 80% of the systems and just like throw them. They can go, you know what? Whatever that game, Skull and Bones, whatever Skull and Bones is, if it wants to take those systems, it can just have them. Assassin's Creed.
Oh, you mean that game that's never coming out?
The game that's never coming out, right? I just want to be Cassandra and run around and romance all of my lovers and do the history and do the stabbies secretly, and be like, just be Cassandra. That's what I want.
Reb, do you think the game is too big though? Like, do you think it tries to do too much?
Know.
Because that's a common
Maybe.
complaint I've heard about Odyssey.
I mean, I kind of like that it's big. I liked that I was in Kefalonia and it felt big when I was in Kefalonia, and then suddenly it said, get on the boat. And I didn't like the part where I was on the boat, but when I got off the boat and realized, oh, now I'm on a whole fucking continent, I was like, oh, I do like this. I also like it a little bit because I've said this on the podcast before. I did 6 years of ancient Greek in college and past college, and like I love seeing, I don't know, like Attica and I don't even fucking know, like just all these
Parthenon
places.
and
yeah, like I love hearing all these things referenced that I remember from my Greek classes, and I'm like, oh shit, I get to go there and see that? Hell yeah! Like there was this basic sentence in Greek. Oh, I'm gonna forget it and sound like a moron. But it was basically like in my Greek textbook, the openings, like the kind of C-spot run sentences in the textbook were like, look at the Parthenon. The Parthenon is beautiful. And it was basically this story. The opening story was these two guys who were on the ship, and they had taken out, like, they had basically bought insurance on the ship, so if it sunk, they would get really rich. And they were trying to distract the captain of the boat by going, look at how beautiful the Parthenon is, so they could go down below the ship and sink it and get, like, the insurance money. And so the story was, like, very stupid. I think it was actually a simplified version of an actual, like, complex text that exists. But there's all these just, like, ridiculous lines, like, yes, I see the Parthenon. Yes, I see the markets. Yes, they're very nice. Why do you keep saying these things? And then he goes down below decks and he's like, oh no, that man has an axe. And he's like hitting the side of the ship to make a big hole in it. So yeah, I just like being in ancient Greece and being Cassandra.
I'm kind of disappointed you haven't streamed this.
Oh, I don't want to stream that. I'll find a cozy game and stream it here soon.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I believe that
Also,
is.
I can be really gay in this game, and it's great.
I just
Wait,
want to
have
say
you-
that.
Go ahead, John.
No, Zach, you first.
Again, this isn't. It's a minor side quest. Have you gotten to a part
Oh, I
where
already
you-
know. I've even
where
played
you
it.
meet an old woman?
No, not yet.
Okay, then I
The
won't. I
only
won't go
person I
there.
have met that I can romance so far is Odessa. And actually, sorry, I'm like dragging on very, very long. I will like stop
No,
after
you're
this. Odessa is great, and I love her character. Except what I don't like is all the romance dialogue options for Cassandra are like very pushy. Like
Yeah.
Odessa is a person who like she's really cool and like collected and has like her own like she's in control of her life in like a lot of particular ways, but she also needs help. And instead of like helping her, you can have if you want to romance her, all of Cassandra's options are like, hey, before I help you, let's go inside and get to know each other a little better. And I'm like, no, Cassandra, you need to learn some fucking subtlety. We need to chill. We need to step back like 2 steps here and like help her out. And then once like her father is no longer dying of this illness, maybe we can have a conversation about romance. But just like chill for 5 seconds. God, I'm not that horny. You need to chill.
It's like the game has good intent with its romance options, but it's written by people who like are just, yeah. It's.
So I ended up not romancing. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I didn't miss it, but I think I missed romancing Odessa because I just wanted to help her first because I cared about her.
I just want to see. I want Reb's reaction when she gets to the old woman side quest. That's.
I
all
already
I'm
know
gonna
what
say.
you're talking about. I've seen it.
Okay.
But I think it'll
All
be
right.
great. It'll be great.
No, it is great. I love it. No, it's very good. It's very good.
You can tell we had a
What have
hard
you been
week.
Zach,
what-
did you
Okay.
get a chance to go over what you were playing?
No,
Not yet.
Oh, you're right.
No.
Not yet.
So I just chasing a dopamine release. I decided to hop on Tim Sweeney's game launcher this week, and I bought SnowRunner, which is basically because I wanted to just haul shit. So for people who don't know, SnowRunner is a sequel to MudRunner and the Spin Tires. They're like these focus interactive games where you are basically like it is like Truck Simulator, but there's a little bit more like it's a little bit more rustic. You're usually like help people build stuff. And I booted it up the other day, and like the first bit it does, it throws you into Michigan, and it's like mid to upper Michigan, and it's like autumn, which is like for people who don't know, I'm from Michigan. I live in Michigan, so it's like a very familiar place. And it's fall, which feels great. And then the first mission is like, hey, there's been a ton of flooding, and we need you to help us rebuild. And like that fucking hits different now, because Michigan is parts of it are seriously underwater right now. And so like the first mission is like, help us rebuild this bridge that connects our town. And so I went and did that. And it's like it's a good game, but it's very weird in that like this was the first time this IP has gotten a lot of good buzz and attention. And so it's doing a lot of things right. Like driving feels great. There's really good physics where like the mud like really reacts to like the physics. It feels great. But the menu is terrible, and like navigating the world and like starting quests is awful. Like you can't just go to a waypoint that's on your map. You have to find the starting point where the game wants you to start, even though the waypoint is already on your map. If you want to actually get credit for doing it, like it's a mess. But it feels really good to move through this space. And I've been enjoying it. And then the game lets you jump from Michigan to Alaska. And Alaska's a very different environment. It's way harsher to move around. The snow is much deeper, and I am still an early level vehicle, so it's really hard to move around the space. And while I was playing, I just recently hooked up a dual monitor thing because I need to keep track of work stuff, but work's been quieter, so I can kind of play games a little bit during the day. So I've been kind of doing the 2-monitor thing. And the other morning I was playing, and I got a little notification from Spotify that the new Giant Bomb episode was up. And so I decided to just put that episode on while I was playing. And like it really just I quickly went into the game settings and turned off the in-game music so I could just listen to like Jeff Gerstmann just complain as usual, and it felt so good to just like have the experience. Like I always used to listen to Giant Bomb because their episodes are like 3 hours, so I would just listen to it like for a whole work week. I would just listen to it there and back my way to work. And so like I switched to the first person mode and just like dropped all of the tasks, and instead there's no, you don't have to pay for gas in this game. You don't have to pay for repairs in this game. So I would just like go drive the Alaska roads and just listen to like Jeff Gerstmann and crew like just talk about video games and like their weird arbitrary interests in like this week they were talking about like old audio setups and tape decks. And so just listening to that like nonsense, things I have zero investment in, and just listening to a podcast and like it just kind of triggered like this familiar feeling that I just haven't really felt in like 2.5 months. And I don't know, SnowRunners, a weird video game, a strange video game, a video game that has given me a really cool, comforting feeling that I wasn't expecting. But yeah, it's been cool. It's been cool.
Is that a pun you're making, or are you just saying it's been cool?
Oh, I guess that yes, SnowRunner.
That's a good pun.
Unintentional
Good
pun. The other
Zach,
thing
you
that I
should
do, no, I won't lie. The other thing I like is that every time you get stuck, you can just take a winch out and just hook it up to a tree, and then when you're in your car, you can activate the winch to try to pull you closer. But if it's not something that's stronger than your vehicle, it'll just tip over. And so like I'll get my like fucking beat up '80s truck stuck in the mud, and I'll just like yank over a bunch of pines trying to get out of like this little like this huge ditch. No, it's a cool video game. And it felt good until I got a task that asked me to help them build a pipeline, and then I was like, uh-oh.
No.
Uh-oh.
Walk away.
Yep.
No.
Would you like to help us move people off land and build the Keystone Pipeline? No.
Uninstall.
No, I don't want to do that.
I'm just gonna drive around aimlessly now.
Yeah, no more tasks, actually. Yeah, no, yeah. But SnowRunners has been good. I don't know. I guess it was just like unexpected, like quiet solace that was comforting, and I've
It
been
actually
enjoying
runs in, kind of into your discussion last week about liking Steep. It sounds kind of like a similar feeling.
Definitely, yeah. It's weird. Like Steep has become like my listening to music thing, and then SnowRunner, I guess, is now my Jeff Gerstmann time. It's kind of to bring in Jeff Gerstmann. Yeah, it's been weird, but I think that like I'm still touching the shooters, right? Like I'm still playing Apex every single day, and jumping into gears here and there. But it just I find myself like looking for different, quieter, weirder things that are a little bit out of my wheelhouse, and it's been good. It feels good to stretch a little bit. Feels good to stretch.
So before we move on, Zach, can I just say one thing? Like I just realized that for the past, I don't know, 5 minutes, I've been sitting here petting my Metroid. And I don't know why, but I just picked up my Metroid, like, almost subconsciously. Like, and as I was listening to her talk,
Worrystone.
just gently petting my Metroid. I don't know why I was doing this, but I just now noticed it. So I'm going to stop now.
John,
because...
stop pretending you're hinting at like a Metroid Prime trilogy, man.
No, I'm really not. It was just the closest thing that was like, I'm fidgety, and it was the closest thing that was within reach, and I guess I just grabbed it and started petting it like Dr. Evil pets his cat.
He
Only
thinks
it's
there's
a
a
Metroid.
Metroid Prime trilogy coming someday.
It's coming someday.
That's what he thinks.
We've had a hard ass week when what we've been playing lasted an hour.
Yeah.
But that just means we need.
And there's
this,
no
y'all.
new releases that we're talking about.
Yeah,
like,
it's just
we're
old
talking
shit.
about,
No
like-
news. I mean, we
Also
picked
news.
out a couple things to talk about, but there just like really was not any news this week. I feel like we're definitely all gearing up for a lot of big kind of news things because we're about ready to hit. There was like a week and a half at the beginning of May where it was like, oh, big announcements, Jeff Keighley, Summer of Gaming, and then like everything got really quiet. And now we're about ready to hit, I think, at least if you believe the rumors, which the rumors seem credible enough, we're about ready to hit another just sort of big period of game reveals, which honestly it'll be the firbe week of June, which would, be E3 time, so it tracks, right? So just like fucking brace yourselves, guys. It's just gonna be news all damn day.
The Summer of Games starts when Sony says it does.
No, I have to write the news, Derek. I'm tired.
Yeah. If these consoles are actually gonna be out this year, it's time to fucking go,
Someone needs
y'all.
to tell us something about
Yeah. I don't even need to know, like, just fucking show me the box at least.
I want
like,
to see the games. I
I
want
need
to know
to
what
see
the fuck
something.
is coming out on these things.
Halo Infinite has no guns. There's no more guns in Halo.
yeah.
No,
You
maybe
just ride a
that's
bike.
better. Maybe that's better.
You just ride a bike now.
Maybe that's better.
So do we have so next week apparently, like supposedly, we're getting a big PlayStation 5 dump, like our first big sorry, I saw something in chat that made me laugh. Our first big PlayStation 5 dump, right? Like
Reframe that.
here's my question. We're taking a big PlayStation 5 dump next week.
Okay, but hold on, back up before you go to this. Do we know how much do we actually know? So
Literally
let's
nothing.
Let's presume that the most credible of the rumors, like Bloomberg or whatever, are true.
Didn't Schreier say
If we
something?
assume that those are true, what do we know? Is this a big dump? Is that what we think?
Yes.
I don't think we know it's a big dump.
A big dump of what?
A big dump of PlayStation.
So, but remember,
What
Jeff Grubb was saying that it'd be a big event, and then later said a lot of people split off.
I just pulled up the Bloomberg article just because I figured that'd be easier. So it says Sony Corp is planning a digital event to showcase games for its next generation PlayStation 5 console that may take place as early as next week, according to people with direct knowledge of the matter.
Free article, limit my ass.
The virtual event could be held June 3rd, though some people caution that plans have been in flux and that date may change. And other PS5 events may follow in the coming weeks and months. So this article here says a digital event to showcase games for the PS5. So that's
so we don't know shit.
No,
guys.
we don't really know shit.
We don't really know anything.
Big dump my ass. We don't know what this is gonna be.
But I think it's gonna be. I feel a big dump coming, Reb. I feel like
Reb, you have butt problems.
Derek,
John, you have butt problems.
The gaming industry has been holding this in for so long, and we got a big dump coming. It's time to release it.
You need to quit talking about your butt problems on this podcast. This is not a medical advice podcast. You are not. You are straight up not.
With information for a long time now.
Let's try to guide this conversation. Okay,
Muting John.
So let's talk about what we are anticipating, right? So we're in a position now where we know Microsoft has confirmed as much that their Xbox is in the Series X is in production right now. Like the boxes themselves are being made. I would anticipate that Sony's in a similar position, and Bloomberg actually today said, we anticipate that Sony is going to show a box soon because they are probably entering production. And you want people's first look at your box to be official, not from a photo from a production plant, right? So we're probably going to be seeing the box pretty dang soon. I think that feels pretty good. I would also say it would be pretty wild if Sony watched how Microsoft stumbled in the last few weeks, only showing third-party stuff that really wasn't that much gameplay. So I think we can speculate that Sony's probably going to show their box soon. They're probably going to show games, and they're absolutely going to be showing gameplay. So I wouldn't say we're expecting like big. I think like 1 to 5 games probably.
Zach, so sorry to interject here. Do you think then, I'm never sure with how these events go. Do you think Sony has actually adapted this within the last few weeks in any way based on like Microsoft's end, or has this video, whatever they're showing, been done for like 2 months?
I imagine no. I mean, I think that plans change, and like I think they've had stuff being built for a while, but like everything, I think especially now, companies need to be built to be reactive, to be very reactive. So I'm sure that like they've had plans, and then they're kind of probably adapting to Microsoft's thing to an extent. Justin?
So based off of some reports, I know specifically Jeff Grubb, who has been trying to round up every date for every random thing that seems to be happening in the game industry this summer. He had initially said June 4th. Now he's saying June 3rd. And he has said the event has changed a little bit in the past few weeks, specifically because of the Xbox event. And one thing he mentioned was there's actually going to be fewer games shown at this event than originally intended, specifically because Sony wants to show stuff running on real hardware, not this is PC target footage of what we think the PS5 version should look like.
I thought I'd also heard that some developers and publishers just want to pull their own games for their own, revealing like on their time. I thought Jeff had even said something to that regard. So, Jeff Grubb, not our lovely Jeff.
Okay, so let's pretend that we live in a magical universe where this is like a massive game dump, or even just a game dump of
Can we please stop saying dump?
Dump.
Can we just call it a game showcase?
Drop that dump.
Let's just pretend. Let's just live in this universe where we just get a bunch of games next week. Sure, why not? What do we get? I want Horizon 2. I think that's like a very obvious, easy thing to want that is like likely to show up. If not next week, then at some point soon. Like we know that's a thing that exists. I'm excited to see that.
Yeah.
So here's a question for the group. Do we think What do we think? Like, let's play that. Like, let's just assume that we're gonna get like a huge games reveal, right? Like, just there's gonna be a ton of games there. What do we think the balance between first party and third party is gonna be?
Hang on. I do want to go back to Reb's point, just really quickly. Really quickly, what games? Reb kind of speculated.
Answer
Like,
the question I asked first, man.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
So hang on. So
What?
I
What?
think
No, that's part. That like that was I was tying that into the question.
Okay, well, but first of all, John, I think that we're gonna see some third party, but probably less big third party than you would expect. I'm just ready to say that, and we'll see. But I think that Reb is absolutely spot on. I think that with the promotion of Herman Holst to kind of running the PlayStation brand, I think that like Guerrilla Games is in the best position they've been with PlayStation in a long time. Like that's going to be their big showcase. I don't think that's a launch game. I think it's like launch window, like is in like probably 2021.
Do you really think so? What's the launch game then?
Also,
I've heard a later launch window. I don't know.
It couldn't be
Justin?
Spider-Man, could it? Like, do you think
No,
Spider-Man?
also no.
No.
Also, on the note of Horizon, there is a Horizon comic book series that is launching this August that is confirmed to take place after the end of the first game, and one of the variant covers shows a new Velociraptor machine that was not in the original game or the DLC. So,
Good.
I think it's highly likely that Horizon 2 gets announced and we see some new machines that are also going to be in the comic.
Yeah,
I would love some
Also,
Velociraptor.
I want whatever Blue Point's doing, presumably Demon Souls. We already know Blue Point is making a remake of some kind for the PS5. And we're pretty
Wouldn't it be funny if it
Demon
was?
Souls.
Wouldn't it
Pretty
be funny if it
confident
was just
Demon
like Jack and Daxter though?
Jack, it
They
is
also
not.
They said they were making multiple. I thought that was confirmed that they were making multiple. We know one of them's Demon Souls. I'm sure that is going to show up.
What if it was a Gex remake?
Hell yeah.
No.
Deep cover
So
gecko,
I'm sure
baby.
that Demon Souls is gonna, or the thing that we assume is Demon Souls, I'm sure it is gonna show up sometime in the vicinity of all these Sony announcements. But they also said they were making multiple titles, and I'm just gonna hold out. I'm gonna hold on to the hope that one of them's Legend of Dragoon, guys. I just want it. I know it's not, but you know.
That's a shot in the dark right there, Rad.
Okay,
Like,
you know what, Mr. Final Fantasy man, you can just.
You got a little Fargo there for a moment.
Sorry, like cards out. I think that like Gran Turismo 7 is probably a real thing, and then like they were covering their ass after that little slip up. I think that game's real.
Can we talk about
That
that
was really
statement?
fucking
Can we
funny.
talk
Yeah.
about that
Go,
statement
Justin.
for a second?
Just really quick. So I think Gran Turismo. I think that we're probably going to see Demon Souls at launch, and then I would probably say that like if I were to speculate Blue Point's other game, I'd probably say they're doing something around Killzone, probably some remaster stuff there.
It's probably like a normal thing to suggest.
Yeah, and they've also just been like teasing a whole bunch of like old school shit for that series. Like I would,
people, I've seen so many people say, "Oh, it's Metal Gear Solid." I'm like, guys, stop! Don't do that to yourself.
Don't trust
Please
in
stop.
anything
Like,
Konami. Don't do it.
Like, don't do that. Don't do that. Justin.
So,
Please explain the Gran
I want to
Turismo
talk about
thing.
I want to explain the Gran Turismo situation because it's
very
really funny.
It's very
But first, a couple predictions. I agree with pretty much what's been said, but one, I think we're going to see a couple partnered third-party titles that are published and funded by Sony as well. Not all of their first-party studios are ready to get something out for day one, and some smaller third parties will probably be helping to fill out that launch lineup. Second, I think there's going to be a family-friendly game that is going to be also like a nostalgia play. So I can see it either being a Ratchet and Clank or a new Crash.
Little Big Planet.
Little
Big
Big
Planet.
Planet.
That's my guess.
Well, Dreams just released though.
yeah, but like that's not a money maker. I mean, Dreams is.
I know,
Don't get on
but-
Dreams. I'm saying it's not a money maker.
Little Big Planet.
I just
something.
think
maybe
it-
not necessarily a
Yeah.
new Little Big Planet, but Little Big Planet.
Little Big
something.
Planet Tactics.
Right.
That-
I mean,
okay,
no,
that's
not
cool.
that specifically, but that like the idea, like Little
Yeah.
Big Planet thing.
Little Big Planet Fighter.
So, but the Gran Turismo situation is extraordinarily funny, and I just want to. We didn't have a chance to
Oh, God.
talk about it last week.
It's really
So this one company that is partnered with Sony specifically for the pro racing wheels for Gran Turismo posted a teaser for their new wheel sets that are coming out this summer, and they had a GT7 logo at the bottom of
They said which of these games are you most excited to play or whatever, and they had like 3 games that we know exist, and then the Gran Turismo 7 logo.
Yes. And then they came out with a statement. They came out with a statement saying that it was there in that you know there was an error on the image that they released, and that the media went wild inferring the existence of Gran Turismo 7. It's like, my dude, you put a Gran Turismo 7 logo on there. Like,
they were like,
this
it's
isn't
a fan
just like
logo. They were like, it's a fan logo. No, it's not.
It somehow got mixed in with the copy. Don't know what
Anytime
happened.
that shit happens, I just have a greater appreciation for how Bethesda handled Rage 2 being leaked by Walmart. Like, just like they're like, that
fucking
shit's coming.
own it.
Duh. Like,
just
no.
just fucking own it. Like, I agree completely.
Jeff, I just wanted to get Jeff and Derek
please.
both quiet here. I want to know what they're thinking for launch window for Sony.
Let's hear it.
And maybe we'll see next week beyond launch window.
I honestly don't know if we're talking first party. I think what Horizon 2 is a good guess. I think that's closer than people think it is, because Killzone Shadowfall launched with the PS4 at the end of 2013, and then they put out Horizon 3 years later in 2016, a genre they'd never done before in a massive world. So it's been 4 years since Horizon almost. I don't think it's crazy to think that Horizon 2, assuming they can use some of the work they'd already done on the first game, I think it's reasonable to expect that game is probably at a good stage of development. So that's a good guess. I guess I don't really have any more predictions. I just want to touch on a couple things you guys talked about. One is I love Demon's Souls. That's my favorite Souls game before I burned out on the franchise. I understand why people like Dark Souls more, in the way that, they kind of, it's all one big level. But I always liked the design of Demon's Souls better, and I like that world better than anything I saw in Dark Souls. I just feel like that's kind of a boring game for Blue Point to do. It's old, but it's only, at this point, it's only from previous generation. It's not super inaccessible. You can find a copy of it. You can play. I don't know. Blue Point is super talented, and I just would like to see them either maybe take something that I feel like deserves a renewed focus more than Demon's Souls. I know that a lot of people didn't jump on board with the series until later, but I don't know. Of course I'll play it, and it'd be really cool. But I think there's better candidates, and I'd like to see them do something else instead. And then as for Gran Turismo, I'm really mixed on that one. I hope that half of me hopes Gran Turismo 7 isn't real, because they've done such a good job. Polyphony is a mixed bag. There's some good things they do really well and some things they don't. Their games are generally pretty thin at launch, especially Gran Turismo Sport when it came to single player content, but their post-release support is fantastic with their updates. Say what you will, maybe Rain should have been in the game at launch on a PS4 title, because Rain's been in racing games for many years, but they implemented it extremely well. They've added new cars, new tracks, everything. So GT Sport is a massive, amazing package now, and it just would be such a bummer, like we talked about, I think, not long ago, to just say, okay, let's blow that all up, new game, here's your next razor-thin launch game, and it'll be good in 3 years when we're done updating it. So, I don't know, I don't know how everyone else feels, but especially racing games, these are platform games. Why are we doing new racing games every 3 years? I don't know. That's how I feel.
I feel the same way, and I also think that it'll juxtapose interestingly, and this is kind of the other part of our topic. I don't want to get too into this because I still want to hear from Derek, but I think that juxtaposes really well with what Microsoft announced today, which is basically just reaffirming the extent and what they're doing with backwards compatibility at launch. Because, just speculation here, Microsoft partnered with Dirt 5, a series they don't really partner with, and it's a launch window game. And if I were Microsoft and I was going to launch a Forza, I wouldn't put a bunch of marketing money behind Dirt 5. So I'm anticipating we're not getting a Forza this year, because I've heard they're helping out with other games anyway. So if Microsoft has BC that's supporting all of their Forza titles and they're working with Dirt 5, I think that's going to juxtapose really interestingly with a GT game that might potentially be scarce on content unless it's just being rebranded GT7 with a lot of ported content from Sport, right? Like, I think that it's going to be... I think Sony will be in an interesting place if that game comes out and is not, like, basically bursting with the seams with as much content as Sport. But maybe that's unfair of me to have an expectation that high. But I don't want to go too far before Derek gets a chance to.
Yeah, no, let Derek go. Let Derek go.
Yeah. So I got slightly beaten to it in the chat. But how do y'all feel about PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale 2
Get
Melee?
the fuck out.
I was thinking about making a joke about that before, but I couldn't remember the name of that demo.
It's awful.
I liked PlayStation All Stars a lot.
It was fun. It was just a weird cast. Like it was just a weird cast. It was a fine game.
I do not deeply want to get started. It's obviously not going to happen again.
No.
But for real, I think the big question is we spent a lot of talk about like what is Sony gonna have first party published at launch? What's gonna be big PS5 launch stuff? And I think it's also worth looking at the third-party partners because I know that we aren't expecting there to be a lot of third-party stuff probably announced at this event if it happens next week, especially if what we've heard is true, that a lot of the publishers are kind of wanting to do either their own reveal events or had to pull stuff so they could reveal it just down the road because it's not quite ready yet because plague. But like we know that Warner Brothers has multiple unannounced titles, some of which are due out very, very soon. I would not be surprised to find out that like the next Batman Arkham game, which is real, is like maybe a cross-gen launch title. We haven't heard about that that Avalanche developed Harry Potter game in a couple years.
Oh yeah,
which we saw footage on. Like I would not be surprised to find out that that's coming within the launch window for next-gen titles. Capcom has multiple unannounced titles. A couple of which we know are new titles, and I'm expecting those to be purely next gen at this point. Like, is Resident Evil 8 coming in the launch window? I don't know. I'm not really willing to put my money down on that, but I think there's so much unannounced that I'm still sitting here basically with very few specific expectations. Because this is almost the most blind we've been to my memory going into, like a holiday season in years.
RE8 is a safe bet for a launch window game, in my opinion.
Bustin'.
Go ahead, Justin.
Kind of building on what Derek was saying, several things that I would have expected to see for sure at like the Sony event being games that are known partners with them or are generally partners have actually just this week announced their own events that are coming relatively soon. There is apparently a Resident Evil event on the 10th.
Oh my god,
and that's
I'm eating this up and poor Reb is ready to die.
Yeah, Reb, I'm not laughing at you. I'm just
fucking cover that.
I'm laughing at you. I'm sorry.
So much.
But Avengers is a PlayStation partnered title that I thought for sure we'd be seeing at this, and they announced that their next gameplay event is going to be at the end of June. So those are a couple things that I think maybe, were planned to be a part of this event and moved, but I do think Call of Duty is going to be there in big capacity. Sony and Activision have renewed that partnership. All the pros play on PlayStations. That like Sony actually, sponsors the pro events and stuff. I think they're gonna still be leveraging that partnership pretty hard.
I can say that I had been told that there won't be anything Ubisoft next week at the Sony event, which I found a little bit surprising.
No, that's not surprising because Ubisoft is doing their own thing. Remember?
Truly, but I thought that,
literally in the first week of June, they're doing their own showcase.
Yeah, I thought that they had something. I thought there was something between them and Watch Dogs Legion. I thought there was a little marketing deal there, but maybe
there has been in the past.
I
but
thought they usually partner
nothing
with
for sure for
Microsoft
Legion.
stuff, or is that only Assassin's Creed?
Watch Dogs has been partnered with PlayStation in the
Okay.
past.
And so it's like Far Cry and stuff like
They
that.
flirt. They
go
flirt
back.
with both.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
flirt.
good for them. Good for them. Play the field.
You know.
Play the field, Eves.
What's up, John?
So I've got a few predictions for the Sony thing that is apparently going to happen next week.
Apparently.
So I think Horizon 2 is I think that's a solid prediction. I think you will almost certainly see that. It's going to be their big launch window IP game. I think that if it hasn't been moved to Square Enix's own event, I think you're going to see something Final Fantasy 16 related. I think it's time. There's been a lot of rumors flying around about that now. And Final Fantasy 15 released in 2016, so we're coming up on 3.5 years. It's time to announce the next one. We know it's in development. We know that Yoshi P is heading the team for that. So I think that's coming up soon. I think Resident Evil 8 is spot on, Derek. I think, and maybe it's next week, maybe it's at a Capcom event on the 10th, but I think that's coming in June as far as announcements go. And I also think that we are going to see something PlayStation related next week in regards to backwards compatibility. I think that's going to be one of the right out of the gate. That's one of the first things they need to address with PlayStation 5, because that is one of the things that Xbox has really knocked out of the park this generation.
Hold on. What are you expecting them to address regarding that?
I think that
Like,
you
what do
are
you
going.
wanna know?
Oh well. So what I want to know is, will I be able to play not just PlayStation 4 games on my PS5, but what about PS3, PS2, and
Assume
PS1
no.
games?
They've not indicated any. If I don't, I really hate using the I word because people use it in a very derogatory and mocking way, and I don't mean it that way. But like, if insiders and like certain journalists had not kind of teased that out, if you'd not been paying attention to any of that, you'd have no reason to expect backwards compatibility beyond PS4 based on their explicit information so far. So I'm gonna really implore you to just give up on that.
I would like them to be like more specific with information on playing PS4 games on there. I feel like we're going to be playing these this fall on the PS5 maybe. We don't even know, can we play, how many PS4 games can we play? Like what kind of improvement? It's like all their statements are super vague, whereas Xbox come out and be like, these games are going to run at better resolutions, they're going to run at better frame rates, they're going to be improved, like we're working on the quality. And PlayStation basically just said, yeah, we're testing lots of titles and you'll be able to play most of them.
I'm looking at it right now. They said almost all of the top 100 PS4 titles to be playable on PS5. But they said specifically
that has been amended.
But they said specifically in boosted mode.
But their amending statement was still super fuzzy.
I would also just, like, this is a cynical take, but I would also say the company that took like 12 years to let you change your fucking PlayStation Network name is probably not going to crush it with like the way they're letting you emulate your PS4 and PS3 and PS2 games.
Yeah,
I know that's really fucking mean, but like I'm just telling you that like you're gonna get you're gonna get what you're gonna get on the fucking PS5 in terms of backwards compatibility. I would expect like kind of what Xbox's BC rollout looked like for this generation early on is probably what you'll see. Is my
I don't understand why the PlayStation 3 could play PS1 games but the PS4 can't. I just that doesn't fucking register with me. I don't get it. It would be almost nothing to add the ability for compatibility for PS1 games in the PS5.
Yeah,
I don't
you just
want
gotta push the port to PS1
Just
button.
push the
The thing is, I
push
could
the
be wrong.
make compatible on PS1 button.
I don't think the PS4 actually reads a CD, does it?
I don't know.
No, it does not.
Yeah.
But
the
like
PS4
put them on the
cannot read
store.
PCs.
Like put them, let people download them. Reb, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I have a take that is different from what's being discussed now. So finish this.
No, that's.
I mean, licensing for older titles is a nightmare, and like they were trying to do it for a while. They did have PS1 classics on Vita and PS3, and they probably just decided it was not profitable or desirable enough, and they would rather invest in like some remakes or something instead of.
But those PS1 classics are still there. So like what John's saying is like how, I mean, yeah, we're not saying lazy devs or anything, but like really, if the PlayStation Vita TV thing, half-ass little thing that they just dumped out for $80, like if that can play PS1 classics, like it's just weird. Like how hard could it be? I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't think it's hard. I don't think it's hard. I just think they just don't think it's
But also,
profitable
like,
enough to put in the
nobody's
effort
gonna
to
see
it.
like, oh fuck, I can play Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 on my PS5. I'm gonna go buy one. Like, it's probably just not worth their time or investment to focus.
I don't know. I don't see why not. Like, I don't mean like stick a PS1 disc and a PS5 and let it play. I'm talking about what Jeff means. Like, let people download them from the storefront.
But this is a legacy thing and a difference between Sony and Microsoft, which is that Sony has said in the past, and I think they're kind of walked this back, but they've said in the past, why would you buy new hardware to play old games? And Microsoft has been very much about like, no, like we want to kind of curate and preserve games going forward, which like I think there's arguments to be made about like who the fuck wants to play the original Age of Empires in 2020. But I also think that like there's like yeah, totally. But I also think that
play
like
Final Fantasy 6 in 2020.
there are
Jeff
dozens
was
of
playing
people.
Morrowind, like yeah.
I am not critiquing people
I
who
know
want
you're
to do that. I'm saying that there's like opportunity costs that they're doing about like what do they value. Yeah.
Sorry, the last thing I want to say is, you know, not to defend everything Sony's done, but for someone who with a little bit of programming experience, who actually does some software development, a lot of times, and I think people miss this, is it's not always so easy. A lot of times the mistakes you make in the past can't be fixed in the future, and I think Microsoft, just because they worked with Windows for so long, even from the original Xbox, it was, I think, a more straightforward and similar to PC hardware, and the transition from that to the 360, they had a lot more foresight, where I think Sony basically, every console they made was just its own little thing, and they didn't give much thought to what would come past that or what came before that. They kind of developed them all in a bubble, and a lot of the problems like they had with the PSN username thing is a lot of back-end database stuff that they can't change without breaking everything else that's connected to it. So I just think that like a lot of the problems they've had, and maybe some of the problems with emulation, just come with like the PS3 can't be emulated because the cell processor was just like a weird fucking thing for people to develop
It was
for.
real
And
bad to develop for.
it takes so much work to go back and fix all those mistakes and brute force them through. And I think Microsoft's planned a little bit better and had things a little bit easier.
And Sony's also really, really paranoid with their phrasing around compatibility, and has been for the past several years. Like when the PS4 Pro came out, it originally did not even have a boost mode available. That got patched in shortly after, and there were very little issues. However, they were pretty afraid that it could cause significant issues. Reb, sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. I wanted to.
No,
mention this
we're
for a little
ready.
bit.
We're
Okay.
ready.
I think there is an interesting. This is just a thought. This isn't really an argument of any kind, but I think this is maybe not the first. No, it's the first time we've really had to think on a broad scale about backwards compatibility in terms of large online game communities, right? So this existed before, but PS4 and Xbox One both have a lot of live service games that have these really large communities, and so there's sort of this necessity for backwards compatibility towards just the most immediate generation. So those communities can be retained and continue to grow, right? Because but it's sort of an interesting like balance, right? Because like I don't know, like I guess like the GTA 5 situation, right? Like we have GTA Online. We don't know this for sure. We don't have any confirmation on it, but very obviously that game is going to get ported to next generation consoles. There's like an upscaled version of it, but also they're both backwards compatible, so people can continue playing that game and can continue existing in those online communities and can continue spending money of it while also buying the next generation of consoles. But that also sort of makes it maybe less of an enticing proposition to specifically make a GTA 6, right? I mean, again, we all kind of assume one of those is eventually coming, but when they do that, like, did they suddenly lose this giant group of people that are all playing, GTA Online? And I think that if they didn't have that backwards compatibility, right, then there would be more of an incentive to just go ahead and hurry up and get GTA 6 out. But as it is, because we have like this very easy backwards compatibility, and because they're likely to continue releasing games on new consoles, like there's just less of an incentive. And I think that GTA is not the only situation like that. I think that there are a lot of games from a lot of major publishers that are in that same situation where it's backwards compatible, and so they just can keep maintaining their online communities. And so there's less incentive to either release a new game entirely, or they can just take their time with the game that they are inevitably making. And I think we saw a little bit of that last gen, but I think this is the first generation of consoles where we've really seen that be like a big issue.
For sure.
That's just a thought. Like, I don't know. That's not really in response to anything, but it's just like a thought I had when we thought of this conversation. And I'm like, wow, this actually makes for some interesting. I know that like Yves Guillemot has said stuff like that, just in terms of like, okay, how do you make how do you make a Division 2 when the division was already very successful and you have like this massive online community? How do you make it enticing enough that you get people to go from the division to the Division 2 and make it worthwhile? And I think that there's going to be a lot of like thought processes like that as we move into the next generation, especially around live service games and whether or not we see sequels for them or whether we see ports.
Yeah, like how does Siege
Upscale
was just
ports.
like, and like how does Siege continue to make money? Like what is their like incentive to optimize for next gen hardware? Is it like more players will come in and maybe they'll buy our season passes still? Like what is that profit margin worth the development time, right? Like yeah, I think you're spot on. Word.
That's what I'm super curious about with these like next gen patches. That's gonna be a whole other conversation. But just like you said, Zach, like if these patches are like free basically when you buy the new console, yeah, what's like you said, what's the return on investment for like putting in the time and effort to really make these games run better on like a PS5? But
yeah.
All right, well, we are bumping up against our time here. It is now a little after 10:30. Do you guys want to wrap this up, or?
I do want to wrap it up. It has been
Yeah.
a good week.
I have more escape gaming to do.
It has. It has. Yeah, I want to play a little Mario Kart before Xenoblade Chronicles hits at midnight, and I stay up till 3 a.m. playing that. Does anybody have anything else they want to drop for anybody before we sign off here?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw the link in the chat again. This is the fundraiser for George Floyd. It's organized by his family. We had a little bit at the beginning where if you came in late and you missed our discussion of that, please just like, I don't know, Google like George Floyd and just like read the news. I think we probably don't need to rehash that a second time or like go back and listen to the beginning of this episode. But there's a fundraiser there. If you're looking for something to do in response to everything that's going on, that is a place to start.
All right. Well, if nobody has anything else, we'll go ahead and cut it off here. It's not always poetry. We don't always agree, but we always keep it real. So until next week, please take care of each other. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll see you later.